In the previous tutorial, the screen would only update when the mouse cursor was moved. To fix that, we will use timers. I'm only going to go over what has changed since the previous tutorial. The global state object has had many of the comments stripped out, so we can focus on what has changed here. Timer ID replaces the hackish redraw timer. That's the only thing we've added. Scrolling down to WinMain, you should be familiar with. The library I'm using can be downloaded here from GitHub. Here's where we set up the timer. The parameters all have comments, so I'm not going to read it over. I've also put comments here for set timer. The graphics setup you should have already seen. Show window, update window, and our message loop you should already be familiar with. Here we've taken a lot of the logic that was in the WM Paint area of our message loop handling, and we've put it here in John Mark's update bitmap function. In our Windows procedure, we now have an event called WM Timer that we're handling. The WM Timer message is emitted when the timer expires. When the timer expires, its timeout duration is reset and it begins counting down again. In other words, the timer loops. Every time the timer expires, we're going to call our update bitmap function. The actual pasting of the bitmap to the screen is still handled in the WM Paint section. So the actual blitting is different than updating that pixel buffer. And just scrolling through the rest of the program so you can see it in its entirety. That way you can transcribe from the screen if you want to. If you weren't able to transcribe from the screen, you can always message me for source code. Let's run this now. Hitting up, here's my build script. Alright, now I'm going to drag it onto the screen so you can see. You can see that red line increasing. I used 6 frames per second so you could actually see it in action and not have to take my word for it. I'm going to close this here. I'm going to stop on the build script so you can read that if you want to. And as always, you can email me for source code.